Like it or not, the eclipse that just happened this weekend is historically very important for the S&P. We've been talking about the market going down the second half of October, and it did do so. We also said our first target was 41.25 on the futures, and on Friday it reached that target. Now, the question is what's going to happen next? As it turns out, statistically, this time of the year, this week, the last week of October, is the worst week on average for the S&P over history. And the first week of November tends to be the most statistically positive on average. So you would expect, based upon that, on the normal seasonality, that the market would start to rally and immediately go up starting soon this week. Okay, however, there's an additional caveat that came in this year. We had a solar eclipse followed by a lunar eclipse that came in on Saturday, and it happened in the sign of Aries. This only happens roughly every 18 or 19 years. What we did was we looked and inspected what happened on these eclipses in Aries. The lunar eclipse in Aries in 2004 came out on October 25th, and you can see in this chart what happened afterward. The market shot out of there, rallied dramatically over the next 3-4 weeks. The eclipse, which came in 1987, came out on October 7th. The market fell apart. It crashed the next few weeks. The eclipse in 1985, which is also in the same position, turned out to be bullish, but immediately bullish. The market rallied immediately after the eclipse, which would be starting this week. In 1967, if you take a look at this chart, you see that the market had the eclipse in October. It was October 18th that year, and it fell apart. And it also broke support just at the time of the eclipse. We broke support last week, just below 4,200. And then in 1948, the eclipse came in on October 18th, and the market fell very soon after, dramatically, in November, for a few weeks into November. And then the kicker, in 1929, the eclipse happened October 21st, and the market fell apart for the next 3 weeks into the final low of the market crash. So, in 3 out of those 5 occurrences, the market had a very severe decline immediately after the eclipse. In 2 of them, it was extremely bullish immediately after the eclipse. So we expect volatility will be dramatic. Which way do we think it'll go? We still think it's going lower. Why? Astrologically, the reason is simple. Jupiter had a connection with Rahu, with the eclipses in the bearish cases. Jupiter did not have a direct connection with Rahu in the cases where it went up in those 2 years. So that allows us to discriminate between the bullish and bearish situations. But in one point for sure, the volatility is likely to be extreme. Historically, this is where it gets really interesting. If you look at what happened in life, what happened in political events during that time, in 1948, on October 18th, the Israelis attacked the Arab army and started the Arab-Israeli War, the first and most significant one. That happened exactly in line with when the Israelis just started their ground attack last week. In 1967, the next occurrence of the eclipse was the Six-Day War. And in 2005, same position of Rahu, the Israelis officially withdrew from Gaza. And now they're going back in. Then they left, now they're going back in, the Rahu transit before. So what we're looking at is the probabilities are we're going to see extreme volatility. We're also extremely likely to see it go down rather than up. However, if it does go up, you need to be careful and have your stops low as possible, because if the thing does rally, it could rally with a violent upside. If you note, for example, when the Ukraine war started last year, when the troops were being amassed and it was a potential war and it hadn't yet started, the stock market started to go down. As soon as the war started, February 24th of 2022, the market rallied up. So wars are not always bad for the stock market, but this particular configuration of an eclipse, a lunar eclipse in Aries, the probabilities are strong the market will crash down first. We don't know how low it'll go. Our next support level was 39.50. We had another one at 38.50. And they may not get taken out. It may not be a huge 1987 type event, but it could be very severe over the next few weeks.